Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I got my guest Kelly Villarreal here. I met her in a container that we're in. Yeah, so I guess I'll just let you explain some of your background then.
Um, Prior to starting into fitness coaching, yeah, I was a yoga and meditation teacher for 10 years, kind of across the spectrum. So I was training teachers, I was leading retreats all over the world, and
Cool.
then kind of made a switch last year toward working with people in a different way.
Okay, cool. So you made the switch last year also, because that's when
Yes.
I first started like really taking this business more seriously. I just been coaching, some friends for a few years before this.
Yeah, I think it took me a while to stumble into actually coaching people and realizing that that was in fact the way that I wanted to work with people. As I
Okay.
was kind of coming away from teaching yoga and meditation, like I took a big break and did a lot of internal work, and there was a lot that I wanted to do with people around self-identity and how we move through the world, and realizing I think that a lot of that starts with how we take care of our bodies and how we move through the world that way is like almost like I had to admit that to myself, that that's really the way I wanted to be working with people, and that it's kind of the foundation, I think, for everything else.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I think for some people it can be hard to go like straight into like that identity work without like that stepping stone first of like fixing like working on their physical health and like their body first. That's what I think. And then once you get like to that part, then you can always do that like later, like of the identity work.
I agree. And I think that fitness and like what is physical, it's so much more tangible to people. A lot of people don't realize, I think, even that there is like this whole other identity layer that is often the reason I think people are stuck when they've been trying to lose weight or trying to get in shape. There's a self-identity and like a nervous system layer that is actually the reason we keep rebounding back to where we were before. But the physical part is so tangible that it's often the place we have to start because we can see it, we can touch it, we can experience.
Yeah, for sure. I think that helps people. And then, but like you said, if they are someone that does feel like stuck, because it could play into that identity part of like not identifying with like the new version that they're trying to become. They just keep reverting back to like their old habits and stuff. I think it can be a little bit different for everyone because like for me myself, when I started wanting to lose weight, I didn't think of it that way. I just knew like the goal of what I wanted to have and just kept working towards it. And so, but other people, they'll just keep going back to like, well, I'm not there yet, so I'm just going to go back this other way.
Yeah, and I think what you're speaking to too is like for some of us it's I think everybody's minds work so differently, but some of us really like will set a goal or we have an idea in mind of where we're going, and you can be kind of like relentless about pursuing it until you're there. But I think for a lot of people too, where that identity piece can really come into play is that people treat changing their nutrition or their fitness as like a thing they're doing right now instead of a like, this is who I am now
Yeah.
kind of a
Yeah.
thing. And
Hmm.
that's where it's like, I think it can be helpful to like call people's awareness to like, this is just this way because it's a pattern that you have. And like, if you want something new, you have to create a different pattern or behavior or identity around it.
Yes, exactly. You explained that so well. So, let's dive back a little bit. Let's rewind. So, like, what got you into like wanting to teach yoga and meditation in the first place?
Well, it's about 10 years ago when my kids were still pretty young, I think I was in a phase of parenthood where I felt like I had lost myself a little bit. And I think that it's something that I don't hear people talk about enough in parenthood, as speaking of identity, is that at least for me as a mom, I feel like every sort of new cycle or new phase with my kids is like a different identity that I am. And I remember this really clear moment around that time, this is 10 or so years ago, that my kids at that time, when you go to the grocery store, they have like the fire truck carts and the like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
car carts. When they were little, they always wanted to go in those carts. And I had this identity, like the way that I saw myself in the world as like this kind of harried mom of like little kids. And every time I would go to the store with all three of them, like one in the pack, two in the cart, somebody would be like, wow, you've really got your hands full there. And at some point was like they as recognize that like I'm like, oh, we're not gonna be here forever, and like I don't even know who I am anymore outside of this identity of just being like a mom of toddlers because it was so consuming at that time
Yes.
with three of them under four. So when I started actually back to yoga, it was because one of my really dear friends was in a teacher training program and she needed people to practice on. So I started going to her
Okay.
house 1 or 2 times a week so I could be her practice student. And that I had done a lot of yoga when I was younger and then, just had kind of fallen by the wayside as my life got busier and other things were happening. But that really like re-sparked my interest and I started practicing at a studio again. They hosted a teacher training and I signed up immediately, without really knowing what I was doing because I didn't at that time when I signed up, I didn't want to teach people. Like
Okay.
I was in it for the personal development and the growth. I don't know how much you know about yoga, but Baptiste yoga is like a really personal growth oriented type of practice. So it's not just about the poses or anything like that, but the teachers are really drilled into things like direct communication and orienting toward growth and being outside of your comfort
Okay.
zone. And
Okay.
so that really spoke to me at that time. And it was probably to this day one of the best decisions that I've ever made because it springboarded my life in a bunch of other ways. But it was my first taste actually of that kind of identity work and self-concept and how we show up. And then as I was going through the process, I realized how impactful it was for me, and I really wanted to share it with other people. So I jumped right into teaching. I signed up for a bunch more trainings. I took every type of training that I could take for like 2 years after
Okay.
that, just like one after the other. Like I couldn't get enough of it. And eventually that led to me mentoring other teachers and leading teacher like programs to certify other teachers myself and like I said
Cool.
teaching
Nice.
retreats and meditation. And it was a really good period, and then I sort of suddenly felt myself hitting a wall or where, it was no longer, like, in integrity with who I feel like I am, and that oftentimes the culture, I think, in yoga studios can be a little bit I had moved away from the original studio I was teaching at, can be a little bit, softened or, like, permissive, where it's like, "It's okay to stay comfortable, everything's perfect as it is,"
Oh, okay. Okay.
and I also realized too that I really enjoyed being in the work with people like deeper work through teacher trainings and mentorships, and I didn't have as much opportunity to do that as I wanted. So it kind of took a pause to like reorient to what was important to me. And it was kind of in that pause that I realized that working more closely with people was actually so much more impactful, both for them and for me, which is kind of like what started pushing me this direction of coaching.
Okay. Got it. Got it. So because, your coaching, is it one-on-one also?
Yeah, it's one-on-one. I'm actually just this week opening it up as more of a community-oriented thing too, so people can have a community of like-minded people around them, but it is very, like, one-on-one. I talk to my clients a lot,
Yeah.
and we're in very close touch.
Okay, that's awesome. That's what I'm trying to include also more with my clients is like a community, and then I'm thinking about just starting like another community, like just for dads in general, just like as a kind of like support group that I can maybe host like a call once a month or something.
Yeah, I do think it's so important to see other people that are in somewhat of the same walk of life that we are or are going through a similar experience. And I think it can be so easy for people, like everybody, to get stuck in a hard moment or just like, oh, this is frustrating, or it feels like nothing is happening, or like you feel like you're alone in it, and realizing that you're not. You have this whole other community of people who are kind of walking the same road, I think can be one of the most helpful things in keeping us all on track.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want to have because um you think you said you like also coach parents, so like I coach parents also. I'm trying to like talk more to blue collar dads like myself because I work on the railroad, and just from speaking to some of my coworkers, I think it would be helpful for them that because they're trying to you know better themselves, get into shape, and not really ready for the one on one coaching just yet. But I think the support and with like from everyone would be very helpful for them. Just like kind of like kind of like accountability and everything.
Yeah, I think so too. And like my husband works at an oil refinery, and
Okay.
he was, I think it was a year or so that I had gotten like really serious about being back in the gym and lifting weights, and that he was like, I can't do that because I get up so early and then I get done late. Like there's no way that I can do that. And then he had like a month off and started going with me and then just never stopped. But it was like
Nice.
that whole time that he before that was like I couldn't possibly. It was like that was just a story that he was telling himself because now
Yeah.
yeah, he does get up earlier. But he was like the first one in his work group, I guess, that was like he started doing it, it like made other people see as well that it's was possible maybe for them. And so it's like I think it's initiated some other people to make a change in their lives just
Nice.
that he is. So
Yes. That's great. That's great. Yeah, because 'cause I've been working on the railroad, I think it's been, like, at least 13 years now, and so it was after that that's, like, when I started working out and stuff. And so the first few years, my schedule's just been, like, always all over the place, and I would still try to work out when I could, but it was really my nutrition that was holding me back. So until I got a really good, like, bodybuilding coach that, like, showed me how to eat the right way, then I lost a lot of weight, and when I did that cut with him, I was working, like, graveyard shifts because yeah, I was either working at, like, midnight or 2 in the morning, and so I'd, like, sleep in the afternoon, get up, go to work, 8 to 12 hours, then get off work, and then go to the gym. Yeah, and then just be walking around my neighborhood to get my steps, like, if I didn't get my enough steps at work, which was kinda rare, because at that time, it was 2020, so I just become an engineer. So, I don't know how much you know about the railroad. So, like, the engineer is the person that drives the train, and then the
yeah.
conductor is the person that works on the ground, like, with putting all the cars together and all that stuff. So, depending if I was a conductor or engineer, like, if you're an engineer, then you're just sitting there, like, all day, so you're not getting any steps. But if I was a conductor, then I would easily get 10,000 steps a day. So, it really depended on what I was doing. And then obviously on my days off, then I have to make sure I was getting my steps because I wouldn't be at work like walking several miles.
Yeah.
But yeah, but that just all that to say that you can still like even if you're working a hard job like at the Royal Refinery or on the railroad, you can still make some time during your day to go to the gym for like 45 minutes to an hour.
It's so true, and there was something too that you just said that I think is, like, the part about nutrition being the thing, because that was true for me also, that it was, like, almost 2 years of, like, grinding away in the gym, and, like, I definitely made progress. I had put on muscle, some things had happened, but I felt like I was stuck, and I wasn't making the progress that I wanted to be making, and it was the same for me, that as soon as I had the right coach who gave me the nutrition, and it was also not, like, groundbreaking information. It was probably stuff I knew, but I
Yeah,
myself, like, just answering to myself didn't it wasn't enough for me to stay
yeah,
consistent with tracking, with planning, and with sticking to it, but knowing that I had to check in with my coach every week was
yeah,
enough to, like, keep me on my plan, and, like, I made more progress in 90 days than I had made in the 2 years prior, and I
yeah.
think it really does speak to the value of having the right coach on your side and somebody who can give you just enough guidance in the right direction that you can start to see, like, the fruit of all that effort that you've put in.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, because my first few years of working out, I was just doing if it fits your macros, and so I was kinda eating some good stuff, but then I was really supplementing like, if I wasn't hitting enough protein, I would just supplement it with, like, a protein shake, and it
Mhm.
wasn't until I got that coach where I got all my protein from, like, Whole Foods, and that, like, really makes a huge difference, and then, I'd all because 'cause I was doing powerlifting before kinda switching more into bodybuilding, and so and my weight had gone up and down with that because my powerlifting coach, he just did the programming, so I was getting really strong, but like I said, the nutrition wasn't there because I was doing that on my own, so just kind of watching other YouTube, like, powerlifters or how they ate, but then I'm, like, also not as big as them, so it's not the best things. But, yeah, like you said, once you get the right coach, then it all clicks.
Well, and that too, what you just said is like, I think that's what I find for a lot of my clients is that you can watch what other people are doing on YouTube, on Instagram. There's a million people out there with like a free meal plan or this is what I eat in a day. And people are actually drowning in information. So the problem isn't that they need more information. It's like they need the one thing that they're going to stick to that allows them to, like, turn the volume down on all of that noise, because otherwise I think it is so easy to be like, "Well, I was watching this guy on YouTube, and he's doing this, and I did this for a couple of weeks, and, like, nothing's changing for me, or I don't feel good, or I don't have enough energy, or it's too much food." And then you're, like, looking for the next thing still. So like, really takes, I think, some of the mental load off for people too to say, like, "This plan is for you." It's not
Yes.
that random girl on Instagram who's not living your life or that random other guy who's lifting who knows what. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a huge thing. is that's why I got a coach for myself is because I'm coaching other people, so then I don't have to worry, like, and stress about, like, what I have to program for myself. I can just follow a plan, so that takes, like, the mental bandwidth away from that. So, yeah, that's why I still have a coach, and also just to keep learning, like, how he does things since I've worked with a few different coaches over the years to keep, like, expanding my knowledge. But, yeah, like you said, it's good to just have someone it's kinda nice just to have someone tell you what to do, and then you just follow it.
It's true. I mean, I have a coach too for the same reason, and like I said too, just knowing that I have him, I have to check in with and like send
That too,
progress
yeah.
photos to is also enough for me to be like, even if I don't feel like this today, like I'm gonna really be sorry if I have to check in and I haven't done what I was supposed to do. So it's like knowing
Yeah.
he's there and he's given me a program and I don't have to worry about it is it takes so much like, what am I gonna do today? What should I program this week? Like it's done for
No.
me.
Yeah, you just follow the plan, and you're like, yeah, you have the accountability and the investment that you've already put in to work with them, so you're not gonna just throw all that money away. So you said I think you said you've like, try to work with more parents, like, what is that like?
Most of the women that I work with are a similar age to me, so I'm 42. So I'd say
Okay.
most of the people I'm working with are somewhere between like 35 and late 40s. But most of us are in this sort of midlife phase where we have kids either younger, like your kids, or my kids are now 10, 12, 14. And I will say that like with my ideal client, when my kids were little too, like that is exhausting. So it was like an exhausting period for me because it's so high, like it's physically demanding. Your kids can't do a lot of stuff for themselves yet. You have to be paying attention all the time. And it's
Yes.
not like that for me anymore, but it's intensive in a really different way. And that pretty much most days from 3 o'clock on, I'm driving them from thing to thing, so, like dropping them
Of
off at their
course, yeah.
various activities and going
Yeah.
back. So there's a lot more of that happening for me these days. It's much busier than I expected to be. And that's true for most of my clients too. And we're at this kind of collision moment for most of us where we have less time, more demand. We're still climbing the corporate ladder, doing what we do at work.
Mhm.
And then we're colliding with like this midlife hormonal shift that starts to happen for women. And so it's like, even if you've been doing a thing for a while, like the things that have always worked don't work as well as they used to anymore. And
Mhm.
that's not like a permission slip to be like, well, F it. Like, it's, oh, well, like, I don't know. That's just how it is. It's not just how it is, but it is like a thing. It's a factor. And so I work with people who are interested in understanding how their hormones work, not as an excuse, but as a like, how can we support you through this and do the right things to make sure that your body stays strong and healthy and capable
Yeah.
as we age.
That's really good. Yeah, because it's there's much more to it when you're coaching women than with men. Like, men, our hormone cycles, we just have to worry, like, about the testosterone, that's like a 24-hour thing. It can there's a lot more to it with coaching women, especially, with their cycles and then the different phases of the cycle, and depending how you wanna get into the weeds, you can even like, try to program differently or have the nutrition different for, like, the different phases. 'Cause I got, like, all super into that so I could help my wife.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, and then did some, like, more continued education, to help my sisters also, with some things as, like, estrogen dominance and all that stuff so they can yeah, because that seems to be, definitely a problem for, like, most people. I mean, even for guys, they can deal with estrogen dominance. I'm not sure if how much you, like,
Yeah,
delve into, like, detox pathways and things like that, but
a lot.
okay.
That's totally my nerdy kind of jam. But
Okay, cool, yeah.
it's true though that like for men as men hit middle age, like their testosterone typically does start to decline, but it's at a much more like steady, kind of slow, gradual,
Mhm.
sustained dip than women's hormones, which can be like all over the place in the years leading up to menopause for
Yes.
quite some time. And then it's like this confluence of factors where as your estrogen levels are changing, it can impact your sleep. And then if your sleep is messed up, then it like starts that whole cycle again the next day with your cortisol curve being broken. So and then it's just this cycle that feeds on itself, kind of like a runaway
Yeah,
train.
exactly, yeah, it just keeps, like like a snowball effect. So, like
Exactly.
yeah, because that's one of the things I work on with my clients is I have a few clients with, well, I guess it's called PMOS now. So,
Yes.
managing, their symptoms, and usually one of, like, a good, like, first mover that I throw in with their protocols is, progesterone, like, supplements with progesterone. So that's usually a thing is they have way too little progesterone, especially, like, in the luteal phase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's
it's
that's one of the things that's definitely helped my sister.
well, and I think it's becoming, at least what I see for myself, and I'm the ideal client that all of these hormone replacement companies and stuff are marketing to right now. So it's interesting, but the standard of care is changing really quickly around the perimenopausal years. And I think that in the next like 10 to 15 to 20 years, like it's going to be an entirely different conversation than it is even today with how people understand their hormones and their bodies. We're at a really interesting moment, I guess, in healthcare right now where there's so much information. Like people are actually more empowered and more knowledgeable about themselves than ever. And it's still only the tip of the iceberg. I think a lot of people that we talk to are like, it's easy to get in your bubble of like what you see on your algorithm, or like we're in this business container together of like a lot of really knowledgeable people that know a lot about things like insulin sensitivity or estrogen dominance. And
Yeah.
that conversation is still opening up for a lot of people like that are our clients, or other people that are
Yeah.
just like hearing about this for the first time. And I think that's going to be like completely different like 15 or 20 years from now, and it's like exciting to watch that standard of care start to shift.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's gonna be good for everyone the more, like, knowledge they can gain, but then at the same time, it'll be still up to, like, us, as coaches to help them, like, stay on, like, the right path. Because like you said,
Definitely.
there's just gonna it can be a problem with just like the other things of, like, just too much information, then they're not even gonna know what supplements or, like, where to start.
Yeah. I saw
Yeah,
a really interesting reflection from a physician the other day that was like, some of the patients that are coming in now are coming in knowing their numbers. They understand things at a level that it took me like a few years of medical school, like 15 years ago, to understand. And it allows us to start like in such a deeper place than just like your lab. We have 15 minutes or 20 minutes, right, in a standard doctor's visit. That like you're not starting necessarily from your labs look fine, so you just have
yeah,
anxiety. Best of luck.
yeah,
I think the more informed that patients or clients or just people are, the the higher the standard of care gets from doctors or from coaches, because we can start at a deeper level than
yeah,
like the basic, just starting with like basic education. So that's, I think it's
yeah,
exciting.
yeah, for sure. Do you go over your client's lab work with them also, or do you leave that up to a practitioner?
There's a couple of questions that I like to ask, and then we can kind of go back and forth. And I have, depending on where people are, I have a couple of providers that I can refer to. But
Nice.
stuff that I like to know is things like fasting blood glucose, and then, of course, like any ongoing chronic conditions. But I think I don't know what your experience is with this, but it has been surprising to me. Maybe it was one of the most surprising things to me when I started coaching people, is how often I encounter people coming in with a laundry list of prescriptions, and they might not necessarily be 100% sure what those things are all managing.
Mm. Yeah,
Or it's like, I'll just ask like, why are you taking this thing, or what is this for?
yeah,
And oftentimes it's like, well, I take this because I take this other medication and it was causing me all these symptoms or all these problems, and now I'm taking that to manage this.
yeah, and you're like, "Okay."
I mean, it's like it's not in my scope, obviously, to tell people like stop taking a prescription or like blah blah blah. But sometimes I'll be like, this might be a conversation that you want to have with your care provider, because like this particular over the counter antacid you're taking, there's like serious long term cognitive risks
Yeah,
associated with this thing, and it may be
yeah,
worth a conversation to see what else you could be doing to manage
yeah,
the downstream effects of this other thing you're taking.
yeah, yeah, definitely. That's what I've had to tell, one of my friends actually, because he was on, like, a couple medications for something, and then his doctor prescribed him something else, and then he had a bunch of side effects, and then I was like, "Why don't you just go to your doctor and tell him you probably shouldn't take the newest one, because that's when you started having all these bad side effects." And then he did, and then the doctor took him off that medication, but then prescribed him, like, 3 other medications. And I'm like, "But you didn't need those other 3 medications, dude. Like, you just needed to stop taking the one, because now she's prescribing you 3 other medications for those symptoms, but they were only symptoms because of that medication." And he's like, "I'm just
Yeah.
gonna keep taking these." And I'm like, "But the same thing." I'm like, "It's lowering your stomach acid, which is gonna lead to other problems." He's like, "I'll be fine." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, and like I'm not anti medicine or
Yeah.
anti-prescription, and like some things are life-saving and some things are necessary, and I always think it's worth I mean, it's a question that I ask myself, so it's like when I have 2 doctors that I see for different things, I see a naturopath that I work with really closely because she will get in the weeds with me on all the nerdy things I wanna talk about with my
Okay,
lab
nice.
work and
Yeah.
results, and then I have just a regular standard primary care doctor that I have in case, and I see her for other stuff, but, these are, like I always wanna review too, like, anything I'm taking, which for me is right now mostly, like, hormone replacement therapy, but, like, "How is
Okay.
this going? Is there anything we need to talk about? Like, what should we touch base on?" Rather than just assuming because I'm taking something right now, I need to be taking it forever.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Do you do the hormone replacement therapy through your general practitioner then?
I do that through my naturopath,
Okay, so
but
through them.
yeah,
Okay.
it's the same thing either place. It was interesting though, like what kind of going back to what I said before about this like changing standard of care is like we are in a moment too where a lot of doctors have a fair amount of education about hormone replacement therapy being a good idea for younger women than menopause. But prior to having this conversation with my naturopath and then later with my primary care doctor, I had done like an online telehealth visit because typically you don't need like a blood test for HRT or anything like that. They prescribe it based on symptoms because like you already said, women's hormones fluctuate so much. It can be hard to pin down with a blood test. But I had a telehealth visit with this other doctor and she was like, I don't know why you're asking about hormone replacement therapy. You're only 41. Like, we don't prescribe hormones until women are in menopause, like fully in
Oh,
menopause. And I was like,
well,
that's not
that's
true.
yeah.
That may have been true like 10 years ago. It's certainly not true now.
Yeah, I feel like that's not gonna be so helpful, like because like, the perimenopause, like, you're still gonna be having a lot of symptoms that could be managed with the HRT, so why are you gonna be waiting till you're, like, already in the menopause to then try to supplement it? That doesn't make sense
Yeah.
to me.
No. It really doesn't. But it was a very strange conversation.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I'm on an HRT myself because when, like several years ago when I had got my test levels checked, they were like under 300. And as like a person in your 30s, like that is not good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like because I was having this like symptoms. And so like I went to my doctor and they did the blood test and they're like, oh, you're fine. And I was like, can I see the results? And they're like, yeah, you're in range. And because the range is like 200 to like 1400. I'm like,
Right.
what the heck kind of range is that? Like, yeah, it's like if you're like from a 20-year-old to like an 80-year-old, yeah, like that's the range. But like I'm in my 30s, my testosterone should be like way higher than this.
Yeah, I mean, that is the problem too with the way that we as a society, I guess, typically approach things like lab work was like, yeah, the range is for people that are 20 to people that are 80. And then
Yeah.
the range is also based on population averages. And like,
Yes.
we're not the healthiest at a population level.
Yeah.
So it's like those probably aren't the best numbers to be using if your goal is to be more than just fine. If your goal is to be in really good health or feeling your best, like those are probably not the most useful numbers.
Exactly. That's what I've had to explain to some of my clients is like, well, I'm in range. I'm like, yeah, but the range is that. So we're not trying to base it off of like the super like obese people. We're trying to be like fit over here. So we can improve these
Yeah.
things.
And where I found it the most useful for me to get into my lab work with my naturopath because she is a lot more attuned to, well, this is what the range is, but for you at your age with what you do and how you want to train, like this is where you should be, or this is what we're looking at. So she's willing to get like a step farther with me than just your ranges look good.
Okay, that's awesome. That's really good.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. So, yeah, 'cause, have you looked into, like, Dom's stuff at all? I know we have some access into, like, Dom's Blueprint, but I'm not sure if you have you got
I
access to
have
that yet?
not delved into that so much yet. I find with all of the stuff that we're working on and then managing, like I said, a full-time job and my kids and my clients, like my capacity is limited. And so I have to choose what to
Yeah,
focus on. And right now, that's not the
yeah,
highest priority item for me.
same. Yeah, I was just wondering if you had looked into it at all because I haven't either, but for the
Yeah.
same reason, because, like, I still work on the railroad, I'm coaching, I'm a husband, and I have
Yeah.
2 little kids, so I'm just trying to
Yeah.
get through, like, the stuff we already have to get through in the container just to keep up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, do you have another job besides the coaching?
I do, yeah. I
Okay.
work as a marketing director for a jewelry company.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay,
Yeah.
nice. How long have you been doing that for?
I have been working for them for, let's see, 11 years.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So I started working for this company when it was a startup. 11 years ago. I don't know how familiar you are with jewelry or with diamonds, but lab grown
So much.
diamonds were like a brand new consumer product. Like nobody had really heard of lab grown diamonds.
Okay.
It
Yeah,
was
I
like
I have
not a
heard of that.
thing yet.
Yeah,
Yet. So we were one of the first to market lab grown diamond companies. We are one of the higher end lab grown diamond companies. And so I've really like over the last 11, or I guess it's actually closer to 12 years at this point, have watched that category and the space evolve, which has been super interesting. So
cool, nice. Not to get too off topic because I know we're kind of staying more on fitness, but, like, because the lab-grown diamonds, it's, like, more ethical, right? Instead of people, like, mining them?
it's what I mean, that is a claim that people make, that they're more ethical. We try to stay out of that conversation around like ethics or whether things are more sustainable because everything requires an input, whether it's mining or whether it's energy. In in that early time frame, there were fewer diamond growers and the landscape looked quite a bit different. But like anything, as the industry evolved like really quickly and there was like this rapid adoption by consumers of the product, um, tons of other growers sprang up. And so how they operate, I don't know. 'Cause
Okay, okay,
they're
okay,
not all
that's a good
like
point.
based in the US or based in Canada where labor standards are this or that way. So
Okay,
it's hard to say with any certainty unless you're really familiar with your supply chain, which we are, but I can't say the
yeah.
same for every company. Um,
Yeah,
so
okay, that makes sense, but for your company, it's good. But yeah,
yes,
you can't vouch for anyone else, I understand.
for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Well, and I guess like the product or like the category as a whole market
yeah,
is like people will get into the weeds with like how much electricity it takes to produce things or like where it's coming from or what about water and like I don't know. Mining is also generally terrible. So
yeah, okay, yeah. That makes sense, that makes sense. Okay, so, um oh, so you started when did you said you started um your fitness coaching business last year. So,
yes.
was it more the beginning of the year, or how long have you been doing that for?
I have been really coaching people for just over 6 months, honestly. And it
Okay,
was like I was developing when I kind of started, my plan was, like I said, I was developing this program that was more focused on identity and self-concept and your nervous system. And like I said, I started to realize that like it had to anchor somewhere. Because
okay,
otherwise it's just people don't understand why they need it yet until they start into something like fitness, where it's like if you want to have it in a way that lasts long term, something has to change about who you are or how you see yourself. Otherwise, that's why you see people in these like stuck in these yo-yo diet cycles
yeah,
forever. Um, so yeah, it was like in that break after teaching yoga and meditation because I'm tend to be a person who's not actually capable of taking a break. I got my personal training certification, my nutrition coaching certification, and a couple of other
okay,
things. But yeah,
okay, nice. Okay, cool. I know you said you wanted to start it, like, with the like, more of the one thing and then turn into the fitness coaching. So, how has it evolved even over the last 6 months? Is it going, as well as you thought it could be going, or how is it?
I think like anything, there's things that worked exactly the way I thought they were going to, and then there's always things that surprise you along the way. Um, I early on with my first few clients that I was onboarding started including in their intake, an identity intake where I asked them to do a little bit of a dive on like where they are now and where they want to be and like what that would look like. And I'm super glad that I did that because it's turned out to be incredibly valuable. And I think what I've really enjoyed is helping people see that when they're struggling, oftentimes it's not about the food. It's not about the workout. Those actually when you get past the like internal ego struggle of like, I want to be able to eat pizza or cupcakes or whatever their thing is. that there's an underlying pattern or identity that's like driving the behavior that they've been doing. And as soon as we can like identify that and be aware of it, like things start to change for people pretty quickly. And I find that incredibly rewarding.
Okay, nice, nice. Yeah, that's what I've, um, kind of, like, evolved my coaching over, like, the last year and a half. Just, like, the more clients I get, then I can keep, like, refining it. Because my when I first started doing it, I wasn't really sure, like, to even, like, how to onboard someone. It was just because all the other coaches I've had, we kinda just, um like, talked on Instagram, then I had, like, sent, like, an application and then just, like, hired them. Like, there wasn't like, that was it. So it's been a little bit different with how I start with my clients. Usually, I start with, like, a consultation call, then, like, an onboarding call, and these things, but I not so much what you did, but I like to know where they'd like to see themselves in, like, 6 to 12 months of, like, their main goal to, like, what we can, like, be heading towards. Not just,
Yeah.
like, a random, like, 20. I kinda wanna feel better, like, something more specific that we can
Yep.
really aim towards.
Yeah. And I do the same thing. Like and it's also been interesting because it's been opposite from my experience with hiring coaches is like I tend to be the kind of person that like when if I've bothered to send in an application, it's because I'm ready to give my money. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
but I also do like a consultation call. We do a long onboarding call. Once I send people their plan, I like to give them 4 to 7 days to sit with it because I send a lot of information up front. And so I like people to really digest it and comb through it and then come back to the onboarding call with a lot of questions so we can
yeah,
like really get into the application of stuff or what specific things like they're worried about being stumbling blocks. But I think, you know, another thing when you ask like what's going well and what's not going the way you expected is I also learned I've had to really learn to not be so nice to people, which sounds funny, but some of my early clients I noticed were they struggled and it was like I didn't know them as well or I like wasn't quite as comfortable with them yet and I wasn't as willing to be like, "Hey, um, you ought to stop doing that thing."
yeah, yeah.
It was like trying to be too nice around it. And it's funny because I'm not that way in real life. I'm not that way anywhere else in my life.
Oh, okay,
But it was
okay.
like because it was still new and I still felt like I was finding my footing, I think it took me a month or so with a couple of those people to realize that I had to be a little more like firm and direct.
Yeah,
In
same.
what I was saying. And I don't know what your experience is with this, but I find myself to be a very different client for like to my coach than some of the clients that I have working with me.
Yeah. Yeah, because I had to be well, I'm generally, like, more of, like, a laid back kinda nice person, so I've had to, like, be, like, more like, "Y no, you gotta do it. You gotta, like, stick to, like, what are we doing here?" Like, kind of not be mean, but, like, really, like, hold them accountable. But I've like, my first couple clients were, like, my friends, so I'd have to, like, take off my friend hat and put on my coaching hat and be like, "Dude, like, get it together."
Exactly. Yes. Yep. And I mean, I find too that it's interesting because my coach, when I check in with him, there's not a lot of like, sometimes I'll send him like a form check video or like, I'm struggling with this thing. What do you think? But it's rare. I pretty much talk to him only on my check in days. And I'm pretty like, I do his form and like, he gives me some feedback and that's about it. Where I find that the people I work with tend to be the most successful when they communicate with me a lot. So,
Yeah, yeah.
that's been
It's
interesting to notice is like there's a gap between how I am as a client and my own clients.
What's funny is, like, 'cause I do like when my clients are, like, updating me, like, sending me their training footage during the week, and then we can have, like, that more constant communication to kinda keep on top of them, and then I'm like, "I should probably be doing this with my coach," and then the whole week goes by, and I'm like, "Dang it. I probably should have messaged him some more." But
Yeah,
I don't really need that, like, support all the time. Like, if I have a question, then I just reach out and ask him, or if like, because 'cause I'll just being so busy, I'm usually, like, doing my workout, and then some days I'll get through my whole workout, and I was like, "Oh, dang it, I meant to film some clips for, like" well, for 1 for content, and then for 2 to send it to him, and then I'm like, "Oh, I just, like, I was just trying to get it done so fast that I didn't
that's
do
my
it."
biggest struggle is like I leave the gym every single day and I'm like, "Oh, I was gonna film some content today,"
Yeah.
and because it's my workout is my time and I go to the gym super early. I'm like in the zone and it's usually like the last thing I'm thinking about is getting out my
Ah,
phone to
okay.
film content, but I need to.
Yeah, it's good just to have, like, the B-roll and everything, but yeah, I do that, like, I get through the whole workout, and I'm like, "Oh, dang it," but it's, uh, if I work out at home I can't really do that if my son's awake because then he just takes the tripod and, like, runs away with it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the struggle
I
is
just
real working out with kids in the house.
yeah, so I just have to wait for them to, like, be asleep, and then I can work out, and then me and my wife were trying to go like to the gym 2 times a week. So like she already went today, and then I'll go later before I go to work tonight, and then we'll find another day this week where we can each like go to the gym just for that reason. Because then it's hard to work out with the kids at their age because they're like our son's running around now, our daughter's like crawling around everywhere. So unless we can time their naps like perfectly when they're both asleep at the same time, then you can't really have a break.
Yeah. And it is
Yeah.
it's I think it's important, like, to have that hour or that time at the gym where it's like the especially as a parent, that you have time just to focus on yourself, because you need that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that and then I know some parents can feel, like, guilty, like, being away from their kids for a little bit, but you have to remember, like, it's just, like, an hour, and you're gonna be, like, way better because you're going to the gym a couple times a week than if you weren't going to the gym a couple times a week.
It's so true, and the capacity that I have to show up in my life for my job, my clients, my kids, like, all the other roles that I have in my life, it's, like, in direct correlation to the amount that I've poured into myself first. So, if I'm not taking care of myself or, like, front loading my day that way, the rest of my day never goes as well. I'm grouchier, like, I have
Yeah,
less capacity or I'm more stressed out. It's it makes a huge difference to slot that time in as a parent, I think. And the example that you're setting for your kids too is like, I don't think it's healthy for kids to think or to observe as they're growing up that being a parent means doing nothing for yourself and like only prioritizing other people and like I don't think that's a great example to set either.
no, yeah, I agree, I totally agree. Um Yeah, it just I sometimes right now, like I said, with my kids at that age, I'd like to do what you do, like just get up and like go straight to the gym. But usually, like as soon as like I get up, then my son knows I'm awake, and then
Yeah.
he gets up. So then it doesn't really work just yet. So that's why we just try to plan our days accordingly, so we can still get to the gym.
Yeah, and I think that that's the important thing, and that's where that is part of what I enjoy working on, especially with parents, is like our lives are busy with kids in different ways at different times. So like yours right now is like my kids are old enough. When I get up in the morning, they're here by themselves sleeping because if they get up before I'm back, they'll make themselves breakfast, they'll go on their iPad, they'll hang out. They're fine. Um you're in a different phase of parenting right now, and it's like I like helping people figure out like whatever it looks like, whether it's like trading off with your partner or getting up a little bit earlier or walking your dog. It's like something I do a lot too is like I take my dog with me when I take the kids to soccer practice, and instead of sitting there scrolling on my phone or running errands, I walk the dog
There
just
you go.
in a loop or around the
Yeah,
neighborhood or like wherever it happens to be. They have practice at different places sometimes, but it's
yeah,
like finding the time and figuring out how to make it work.
yeah. Yeah. That's exactly because everyone's gonna have, like, different, like, phases, so, like, I can relate more to the parents that are, like, have the younger kids, so, like, if that's why I usually say is, like, "If I can do this doing everything I do and still work out, like, 4 to 5 days a week, then you can too, because I can totally relate to your struggles, but it's, like, not I'm not making an excuse, and then but, yeah, for kids your age, like, you don't have to worry about them, like, waking up and then, like, falling out of the bed.
Right. Not anymore.
Yeah. So, you're good. That's the phase we're in, so we're, like, have like, just, like, constantly with the baby monitor.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's intensive and it's just like in such a different way.
Yeah, so but, yeah, that's what's good about, like, hiring a coach like us is, like, we can totally relate and then build a plan that's gonna be based around your life, like, we're not gonna, like, be like, "No, you have to do it this way," like, we're gonna make sure we can figure out, like, however you get it done, like, it's gonna work.
100%, and, like, I think so I had, like, a month or so back, I had a one of my reels went viral. It was me basically saying, like, "If your schedule has never looked like my daily schedule," I lined it out, like, "I don't want your fitness advice." And then
Oh,
a
that's
couple of
good.
people got, like, really pissy in the comments and were like, "It doesn't matter how busy you are, like, what's going on in your life, like, the fitness advice is the same." And it's like, I mean, sure, it's
Yeah.
true. Like, nutrition is nutrition. A calorie deficit is a calorie deficit. And the ways that you have to manage those things to like make them fit in your life does look a lot different when you're a parent in your 40s, like, or 30s, managing all these things. Um,
Yes.
the way you have to approach it is probably different. It certainly is different than it was for me when I was 23 and all I had to do was go to the gym and make sure I was eating what I was supposed to be eating. Like, that was pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's,
Like,
like, so easy.
I mean, it's like at the time I thought I was really busy. I was really busy, but I'm exponentially busier now. And so I have to
Yeah.
find ways to make it work for me. That are just like they're just different when you have all the time and bandwidth to put on yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's much different, like, yeah, several years ago before I had kids, like, how I spent my time in, like, in meal prep and stuff compared to now.
Yeah, and I think those things too, those kinds of strategies that you probably do with your clients and like what I do with my clients is like a lot of education on like this is how I do meal prep because I don't want to spend the entire day on Sunday in my kitchen when I should be with my family. Like
Yeah.
this is how I
No.
approach things, but in a way that makes sure I'm ready for the week, that there's food at home so that when I'm tired and the day went sideways and it's like we're rolling in the door at 8:15 from practice, that there's healthy food
Yeah.
ready for me
Mhm.
to assemble. So I'm not like, oh my God, fine, just take out. Like,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You don't want to, like, to resort to that. That's what I've helped, like, several of my clients with, um, with their kids being well, their kids are, like, in between our ages, so they're or no, I guess one they have a teenager, but yeah, it's the same thing, like, dealing like, she's running around to practices, like, all afternoon and then comes home, and then she'll, like, have, like, something already in the crock pot so it'll be ready when she gets home, or have already things, like, prepped, like you said, so she's not tempted to get fast food. And
yeah, I do a
and
lot of
it's and
like,
it's oh, sorry.
oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
And it's just food that, like, as I know, especially for moms, like, they'll feel like they don't wanna have to eat separately from their family, so I make sure that, like, when I build out the meal plans for them, when she makes dinner, it's gonna be dinner that, like, her husband and all the kids are gonna actually, like, enjoy eating. So now she has so many recipes that, are gonna help her lose the weight, build muscle, and her whole family enjoys eating them.
Yeah, that's 100%. Like, nobody wants at the end of a long day, the last thing that most people wanna do is prep a whole entire separate meal
Yeah.
and, like, make
Yeah.
another
No.
set of dishes, like, nobody wants to do that. So, it's like you have to give people things that actually work for their real life, which is usually, like, teach people to eat a version of whatever their family's eating. So, if it's, like if there's a recipe the whole family will like, great. Or if my family's eating a cheeseburger and I'm in a deficit right now, like, I'm gonna have that and I'm not gonna have the bun.
Yeah.
Or if my family's having pasta, I'm gonna have a small portion of noodles and fill the rest of my bowl with something like zucchini. Like, it checks the box where it's like you're eating what they're eating, you're just modifying it a little bit so that it's aligned with your goals. But like, let's not make it harder than it needs to be with like prep yourself a whole separate meal. And I think most people who have families are maybe or in this phase of life are also a little less willing to just be like, I'm gonna live on chicken and rice for the next three
Yeah.
months. Like,
Yeah.
we're not gonna do that. So like, give me some strategies that mean that I can still have some amount, like, yes, adhere to a plan, yes, learn to portion or eat my meals a little differently, but also have some level of flexibility to allow me to like live my life.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because so many people, they think like, "Oh, I need to lose weight. I'm just gonna eat, like, chicken and broccoli." And, like, that's, like, a great way to, like, get tired of your diet in, like, the first week. Like, we need to have, like,
Sure.
way more different things to eat than just chicken and broccoli.
Well, and it's like anything, I suppose, for like a short period of time, but then like what other micronutrients are you missing out on by
Yeah.
like only eating this like really narrow group of foods? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I try to
there's
include, like, so many different things for, like, the micronutrient profile because of that same reason, like, you don't wanna, um, be that d and or also, like, run into, like, a food sensitivity issue because 'cause you've been eating the same thing for so long that your body just, like, gets tired of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, my goal is to like I always say this to people too, but my goal is like at the end of whatever time that we work together, hopefully it's for a long time, but that you don't need me anymore. And so I don't want to necessarily give you a meal plan where I'm telling you everything to eat. I want to teach you
Mm.
how to eat. So
Yeah.
I'm going to give you
Yeah.
the building blocks and then I want you to figure out what that looks like for your life. So with a
Yeah,
lot of people too, like when that's new, I will ask people to like check in with me on Sunday afternoon and I'll be like, check in with me on Sunday and tell me what you planned for this week. like,
that's good. That's a good idea.
like
Yeah.
check in with me and let me know like what are you eating for lunch this what did you plan for lunch this week so that I know you're not like falling off track before the week
Yeah.
even starts.
Oh, that's a good idea. I like that. I like that. Yeah, because I usually give, like, an outline so they can see, like, what it would look like for, like, the healthy meals, like, every day, but they don't have to, like, that's, like, not what set in stone, like, that's what they have to eat. It's just, like I've just found if you just give the macros and, like, the list of foods, then some people, like, can't really put it all together, so if you give them examples, like, a few different examples of what they can eat every day, then it's a lot easier for them to see it. That makes
100%.
yeah.
And when I with all of my clients, and this is like because this is what I do myself and I know what works for me, and this was like game changing is like you don't have to eat chicken and broccoli for the next however long you're going to be in a deficit. But what I will ask you to do is start with one meal a day. So, say breakfast. I want you to pick one breakfast and I want you to eat the same breakfast for this week.
Mhm.
So, it's pre logged. You know what the macros are. You don't have to think about it. It's
Yeah.
already done. And then, like, once we have that down, like, you can pick a different breakfast next week if you want. I'm personally going on about 4 months right now of eating the same exact thing for breakfast every day.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
same.
but but, like and then it's like, okay, and then, like, let's add on to that, like, lunch. So pick a lunch this week. Let's build the macro profile that fits what your plan is, and then just eat that for a week, and then you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
Like, removes the mental load of, like 'cause I do think that's a huge stumbling block for people is feeling like, "I need some different fancy salad or, interesting meal every day." Like, the more you're trying to add and calculate and figure out, the harder it is to actually stick
To
to a macro plan.
Yeah, that's why I like usually it's like a different as I okay, depending on the clients, like I'll have like more of like a training day meal plan will have like more carbs and like a rest day will have less carbs and then different meals to go with that. So then I have like usually several different meals through the day and then so it's not like if you're gonna because a lot of people like I said they'll make a mistake of trying to eat like chicken and broccoli for every meal where you can have like if you're having four different meals it'll be four different things and you're not going to get tired of eating it because you're going to be having like four different meals every day. I mean,
Yeah.
at least I don't ever because like we said, we're kind of the kind of people that have like the same breakfast every day and we're fine with that. But
Yeah. Well, it's like I just eat the same breakfast for a week, and then if you want something different next week, then switch to something different next week, but just make sure
yeah,
you're eating the same thing all week so that you don't have there's no
less
extra planning
decisions.
once you've
Yeah,
decided. Um, you know exactly what to grab and go. And also, I think that it's a really if the goal for a lot of people who are not bodybuilders, who
yeah,
just want to be in shape and be like regular people, because that's a different
yeah,
mindset.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
It also I think the goal for most people then isn't to, like, track every single thing they're eating forever, but if you're eating the same meal over and over a week or 2, and you kind of return to it over time, it gives you a much more intuitive sense of what is a portion of sweet potatoes? Like, what does that look like in my bowl? If I've measured it out enough times, like, now I know basically without measuring, and again, because I definitely have physique goals, I'm not a bodybuilder, so if I'm off by part of an ounce today one direction or another, it's not enough to like throw my plan out the window. So
yeah.
I think it's a much more intuitive like it helps people have a much more intuitive sense of like what their portions are supposed to look like for a bunch of different foods. If you eat it over and over, you like visually recognize what the portion is supposed to look like.
Yeah, for sure. But people need that like the first step of actually tracking all like their food for a while first, so they can get
100%.
that intuitively eating. Because I see a lot of people they say like I'm just gonna intuitively eat, but they've never and like they've never tracked
Yeah.
anything, so they wouldn't really know like how to eat intuitively. They just go from eating like super like processed junk to then I'm gonna try to intuitively eat. It's like you skip the step, but you need to try. You need to know what the stuff looks like first.
That's exactly it. Is like intuitive eating is a I don't want to say it's earned, but it's like a skill that you develop where it's not actually intuition, it's experience. There's no such thing as intuitive eating. There's just the experience of knowing what a portion is, what fuels you, what makes you feel good. And that's not like we can call it intuitive, but it's actually something else. It's experience, like applied
Yeah.
knowledge.
Yeah, like, cause I know exactly how much, like, 6 ounces of chicken is now after
Yeah.
doing it for so long.
Yeah, because you've put in the reps to know
Yeah,
what 6 ounces of chicken looks like.
exactly, exactly.
What do you see in the clients that you work with for parents especially, like, what do you experience as the biggest stumbling blocks for your clients when they struggle?
So far, I think one of it's usually just at the beginning, and the struggling part is, um not tracking, like, they think they're tracking accurately, but I've had several clients where they aren't actually tracking, like, the fats, like, they're adding to the meal, so, like, they're not, like, if they add any extra oil to cook with and stuff, they
Mhm.
haven't been tracking that, and then so their progress, I'm, like, confused by the first month because they said they've been eating everything perfectly, and then I'm like, "This isn't adding up," and then I'm like, tell me exactly how you cook it," and then 'cause I'll lay out, like, if they need to add any extra fats in their diet besides, from the eggs and beef and whatever, so, like, if it like, any coconut oil or olive oil, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I mean, I just every time I have 'em like, I'm gonna cook a meal, I just, throw in, like, 2 tablespoons of, like, oil." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, there we go, that's the problem."
Yeah.
So, that was one client I had, and then once we addressed that, everything started moving. I think the other problem, um is it can kinda go back to the, identity of them kinda like, staying stuck and not, like, moving past, like, their old self. I think they just still kinda, like, stuck in their ways, and so it can be kinda hard to break them out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. With
Yeah.
the oil or, like, cooking stuff too, it's like all the lick spite scoops. It's like
Yeah.
the
Oh,
little stuff
yeah.
that adds up. It's like the little bite off your kid's plate or the random handful of whatever you grabbed on the way by the pantry and forgot about.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that'll be definitely something I've noticed is, like, if I'm sure you did this too when you had, like, toddlers, you, like, make them food and then they eat half of it, and then you're just like, "Oh, let's have a little bite."
Yeah. What was it? There's also like the guilt is real about throwing away food or like
Yeah, yeah.
just having it feel like it went to waste or something. I don't know. A lot of stuff can be reheated, but I was always like, I don't know. They ate half bites of 5 chicken nuggets. Like, I don't really want to throw that
Yeah.
away. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, like, every parent can relate to that part.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you finishing the 5 nuggets, like, adds up.
It does, and it's also the stuff that's like it's not filling or satisfying, so you forget about it, or it's like you just
Yeah,
it's like snacking. I was talking to somebody about this the other day on a check-in call. Was like I was like, but you understand, like when if you're find yourself snacking, it's because what you're eating isn't satisfying, but it's all adding up. It's all like pretty calorie dense if you're like eating nuts or dried fruit or like chips or crackers or even the stuff
yeah,
that feels healthier, like pretzels or popcorn, is like the reason you keep going back is because you didn't actually eat anything nutrient dense. You're not satiated. So
yeah,
your brain's still looking for something more.
yeah, yeah. So it's better to put, like, a little bit more calories in some of your meals that are from, like, healthier, more nutrient dense things than not doing that and then snacking and then going way over your calories for the day.
Yeah. I mean, I think that for a lot of people, what they realize too over time, I don't know if you also experience this, is like snacking is often just a form of distraction. It's like
Yeah,
a way that we're busying ourselves when we could or maybe should be doing something that's a little harder. Like it's for me, it was always a form of procrastination. That's what I realized. It's like
okay, okay.
I got a lot more serious about my nutrition. Was like, oh, I'm not. There's no reason I'm snacking right now except that I'm procrastinating because there's like something I should be
Mm,
working on that
yeah.
I don't want to do. There's a call I need to make, but I'm over here saying I'm hungry and I need a snack. I'm not
Ah,
hungry.
okay, okay. Yeah, it's that or, like, uh, some people are just, like, thirsty, and then instead of just trying to drink more water, they're like, "I'm just gonna
Yes,
go get a snack."
100%.
Yeah, but yeah, and then the constant snacking it's just gonna slow down your digestion too, and which can lead to a bunch of other things, but that's why it's good to eat, like, every, like, few hours, but we wanna be making sure we're eating, like, good foods in those, like, 3 hours, not like a protein shake or a protein bar.
Yeah, something that's actually going to carry you to your next meal.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, we wanna be, like, focusing on, like, still fueling our body, like, all the time. Even if your goal is to lose weight, it doesn't mean that you're, like, starving yourself. We still want to be, like, you have to remember you're, like, fueling your body through this whole through every phase.
I think that's also been something that really surprised me with my sort of client base, is just how common it is for people to underfuel. I
Mhm.
was surprised, in that I really expected it to be much more the other direction, that everyone was like overeating. But I think also like in the time that I grew up, like I remember taking Slim Fast shakes to lunch in high school. Like, I
Yeah,
think people only learned how to like really ever do extremes to be where they
yeah,
want to be. And so oftentimes when I'm like, yeah, we're gonna eat like 5 small meals a day and it's gonna look like this, people are like, that seems like a lot of food. It's like too many calories. And I'm like, no, you're
that's not
you're an active, like busy adult woman. Like 16 or 7, like 1,700 calories is not too much food.
yeah, definitely not. Yeah, because 'cause they've probably been, like, stuck because they were only eating, like, 1 or 2 meals a day, as I've run into that before.
Yeah. Yeah, and I actually had somebody, who is still working with me, but that I started with early on, who her biggest struggle when she came to me was that she felt like she could never stick to anything, and she had like a story around it. Like, I can't stick to anything, nothing works for me. I will adhere to a plan for a few days and then I ghost, I binge, I stop tracking. If I stop texting you, it's because I did that. And I was like, okay. So then when we got onto our onboarding call and we're like going through everything in detail, she actually was like, this feels just like a lot of calories. And I was like, this feels like almost, to me, I felt like it was really conservative. I was like,
Yeah.
it almost could be higher. But let's start here and see how we do. And she was like, the last like clinic that I was working with had me on a plan that was 900 calories a day. And I was like,
Oh, jeez.
I'm sorry, what did you say? um, and I was like, "Wait, do you understand that that's the reason you're in this
Yeah.
cycle? It's not that you can't stick to something, it's that you're literally starving and then
Yeah.
your hunger, like your body's survival drive is taking over. That's why you're binging and
Yeah,
that's why
yeah,
you feel like you can't stick to it. This is not a you problem. You're not
yeah,
you're not
yeah.
flawed." It's but that plan is.
Yeah, that plan definitely is.
That's why it feels like it's not working because it's not. Like that
Yeah.
was never going to work.
Yeah, definitely, definitely not. Yeah, I ran into a similar thing with a couple clients. They came to me and they're saying they've been stuck, and then once we get into it, like, yeah, they were eating, like, probably s 8 or 8 to 1,000 calories a day, and they should have been eating, yeah, like, closer to, like, 1,800, and I'm like, "Yeah, this is why you kept doing that."
Well, it's like your hormones are affected by that, your ability to train is affected by that, your ability to
Yeah,
recover, to sleep, like all those things
everything.
require enough food.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, 'cause the sleep's a big thing. I especially as parents, like, with younger kids, that's, like, one of the first thing that goes out the window, so trying to manage that as best you can to recover to for your like, from your workouts so you can lose the weight and build the muscles, so key.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, critical.
Yeah, that's always, like, one of the first things I work on with my clients is, like, improving their sleep quality. So, because usually almost everyone comes, they're not sleeping that much, and they rate their sleep pretty poorly, so then I once I can improve that, then they'll have more energy the next day to actually get the workout done, eat all their meals and everything, then just kind of keeps progressing that way.
Yeah, I think I find the same, and I think it sometimes surprises people that I'm like, let's before we start doing anything else with food or deficit, like let's fix your sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, and then depending, like, if you said your client was, like, so little calories, I don't know how good they would have been, but, like, sometimes you need some kind of reverse right off the bat before you even pull back it down into a deficit just to, like, rebuild their metabolism and get them into a better spot.
100%. And
Yeah.
like you already said, is like getting people a couple months of putting on some real muscle in that
Mhm.
time frame, just sets them up so much better for than doing a deficit like a few months down the road.
Yeah, yeah, because then like, especially after you've built the muscle, then you can build up their metabolism, then you can pull the calories again, but now you're gonna be eating way more, and then so you won't have to be so hungry and just
Yes.
better experience for the client.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, for sure. So, awesome. Well, this was a really good talk. Um, Thank you for
Yeah.
being on the podcast.
Well, thanks for
This is
having
good.
me. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it, and it's just nice to chat through all of the strategies and managing life as a parent and
Yeah,
doing wearing
definitely.
all the hats.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Awesome. So, um, So if anyone wants to reach out to you for the coaching, what would be the best place?
The best place to find me is on Instagram. It's my handle is the Kelly Villarreal. So the my name with the in front of it.
Okay, cool. Awesome. That should be easy enough. And I'll make sure I put that in the description also so everyone can find you.
Awesome. I really appreciate it. Thank you again so much for having me. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Same. This is great. Okay, I'll talk to you later.